Hello and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 28.
Cool.
I'm Tristan Jutra. To one side of me,
William Silver.
down below.
I am Space Gray Williams.
Perfect. Is it the most wonderful time of the year? No, we had a hierarchy of most wonderful times of the year. Christmas still gets number one, and there's WWDC, and then iPhone. I think it's this third most wonderful time of the year.
This kind of gets a bit of a bump though, because we've got all of the things except the Mac came out today. Well, were announced today.
Exactly. So we will be getting into all sorts of Apple goodness because that's something we really lack for on Momentous Live.
And not a lot of coverage out there online. Not a lot of people talking about it. So somebody has to. It might as well be us.
At least we're nice and early,
right?
Ish. So, but before we get into that, we have a little bit of follow-up and a couple of other quick stories. One of which is last week we talked about the Matrix Resurrections teaser, the interactive website, and now the full trailer has dropped. And again, starring John Wick and some other people that you may or may not remember from previous installments, such as Jada Pinkett Smith and some newcomers, including Christina Ricci. So,
finally, that Matrix Adams Family crossover we've been looking for.
Exactly. So now that we've had the opportunity to absorb that, what you guys think? I'm going to pull up another window here because this one will be a little better. There we go.
I mean, such a great trailer, like just packed with callbacks, and I think a lot of us were left at the end of the third Matrix movie. It was Matrix Revolution and the Matrix. What was the third one? Matrix, not the one with the naked underground race.
How about Matrix 2, Matrix 3? How about we'll go with that?
And I mean, I think a lot of us kind of looked at that and went, okay, so he's not dead. Like clearly he's not dead. It's been 20 years, okay?
Right, but he's questioning his sanity. Was it all a dream? Why is he having to take so many blue pills all the time? Did they just like retcon that in the entire original trilogy? Did they pull St. Elsewhere on us?
And I can actually hear Joe Pantoliano in that one saying, "Why didn't I take the blue pill?" And so it's I'm stoked for it. I've seen a lot of the Wachowski stuff in between, and there have been a lot of these themes that have run through it. Through their work, and so like Cloud Atlas, for example, really kind of went through this same sort of process. So fascinated to see where we're going with this. I'm there day one.
Indeed. And how will you be viewing it? It's coming out at Christmas time. Yeah. By then, it'll be in theaters and on HBO Max and whatever the equivalent is here in Canada. Crave and what other nonsense.
So here's the thing. I've got my vaccine passport, and at that point, we're in a place where we're already there, where they're going to be required to get into the theaters. I think I feel good about going back to the theater.
All right. Yeah. How about you, Will? What do you think of the trailer?
I thought it was amazing. I thought it looked really awesome. I'm a big Wachowski's fan. Even the Speed Racer, which I think a lot of people didn't like, and it certainly was. It was certainly very stylized.
How did you fall asleep during that acid trip?
It was absolute bonkers.
Fatigue.
I think it was just it was the wrong sort of aesthetic that people were looking for, but I really enjoyed it actually. I mean, having watched Speed Racer, the show as a kid, it's just basically they took Speed Racer and turned it into a movie, but I'm not sure exactly North American audiences were ready for that on screen in live action. But going back to this, I mean, the original Matrix is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's right up there. I even like the second and third one. I think probably the second one is a bit of a dip, and the third one is not a bad strong ending. I know a lot of people were just kind of disappointed with the other two, but I'm really interested to see how they turn this or where we're going with it. Neil Patrick Harris is one of my all-time favorite actors. So we'll have to see what that brings to the table. But yeah, no, it looks amazing. Looks like they brought it into the modern era, and lots of questions and kind of trailer that you want. I mean, definitely some teasers about stuff that happens, but I didn't feel like I was totally spoiled. Tristan and Gray, you probably know this. I often close my eyes during trailers in movie theaters back when I went to movie theaters a lot, especially the Fast and Furious movies. And it's such an interesting experience because you just hear this, like, you close your eyes and all you hear is like, and then the audience goes, oh, damn. And you're like, I'm glad I didn't have my eyes open for that. That ruined everything. They jumped from one car to a plane to another building to another plane to a helicopter.
Don't spoil it.
So yeah, so I think that I'm good now. I often have this rule, like, watch a trailer and then don't watch too much because you don't want to be constantly spoiled. So I'm in on the Matrix. I'm really keen. I'm not watching another trailer. Unless you make me.
But there is a plot in the Fast and the Furious movies to spoil. Huh.
Yeah.
That's a takeaway for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have they done any Fast and Furious video games yet?
Yeah, the Need for Speed.
I think they did some original ones back in the 2000s.
Have you guys seen they have like some animated series on Netflix as well, like the further adventures of the Fast and the Furious? And there's
I haven't seen that.
The current one is set like in Mexico or something. It's actually
the deeper search for family across the world. I like it. Yeah.
Exactly. Family, home sweet home.
Family.
So I am stoked for Matrix again. One of my favorite movies of all time. I think the second one especially. Well, you know what? They all three. The second and third are obviously not nearly as interesting or groundbreaking as the first, but there are multiple layers to each of them. And actually, a number of books have been written on the various philosophies that were drawn from to kind of thrown into a blender. There are some unanswered questions still that I find from the first couple, like was it Angel, Seraph, the character Seraph.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he look different than anyone else in Matrix View? He was a different color.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking he was like some sort of, maybe he was an actual angel type thing or some other type of computer program that wasn't the same nature as the
hypervisor
players
program
in the much exactly super user perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So there's even just you tease apart some of the names of the different characters, the Merovingian.
Oh, that's such a good
name. They all have some. They come from somewhere, and so you think, okay, did they just throw in a bunch of this stuff to sound cool, or were there actual additional layers of meaning that they were going for with all that?
It typically is, and it's not the Wachowski's kind of doing that. Like, nah, there is a building of lore there, and I think there was a bit of a backlash, right? People going, oh well, they're too smart for their own good. Mm-hmm. No, we're actually asking you to think once in a while in an action movie, and I know that's hard to believe, but. Mm-hmm. Just go with it, right? Go look up what these things mean and see if it actually has any more meaning for you,
and see if it actually makes any sense too, because they could have just be throwing everything together, and does it actually hang together? And I think TBD on that. Sorry, go ahead, Will.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It is one of these things too where I think they also, and you mentioned this, Tristan, they suffered from the fact that they had been so groundbreaking in the third one that people expect the same one trick pony, 2 or 3 tricks. And so I should say I mean, just in general, I think expectations were very high. I actually thought from, a sci-fi, world, I actually enjoyed it. It certainly, if you were wondering about the Matrix and you had your own theory, maybe you were also a bit disappointed about what you actually saw with the half-naked raves in the underground, as Gray said. Maybe that's not quite what you were expecting from this from this world.
It's the writhing masses of humanity, and
the writhing masses of humanity. But I mean, I think for me, a big fan of sci-fi. I mean, that's really my genre. I thought it was a nice blend of all sorts of things with, a little bit of Blade Runner, a little bit of some Philip K. Dick stuff in there, and I mean, I really enjoyed it, and so I didn't mind the second and third one maybe weren't as groundbreaking on some of the sci-fi effects. I still thought some of that stuff, like all the cars flipping and all that stuff, was pretty crazy, and the fact that they built a highway for that, was a little stretch of highway. I mean, I still think those movies stand up, but I know that people were disappointed at the time. So hopefully this sort of, as you guys say, takes some of those threads from some of the original trilogy and really blend it and revitalize it, because the first one was awesome.
And we'll see if what they come up with now lives up to today's standards. I mean, Matrix is obviously groundbreaking at the time, and they did all sorts of neat effects and innovations, including bullet time and the like. So we look at the trailer, there's some pretty cool stuff going on, but will it just be action, 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 or will there be more to actually think about there, which is what gave the Matrix so much longevity, I believe.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say really briefly, like when we think about the era when these first three films were released, right? We straddle the millennium, right? So 1999. And then you have everything from 2001 to the invasion of both Afghanistan and Iraq in that time. And I think there was almost a bit of a reflection of the jingoism of where everybody's mindset was. And so you take a look at this trailer right now, and you've got Neo, who is in the later stages of Mr. Anderson is in the later stage of a midlife crisis, talking to his therapist. They are, once again, like finger on the pulse of society, of like, is there anybody out there for the last 2 years who isn't really questioning if any of this is real? Just slightly. So it feels like, yeah, I think there's gonna be a whole lot more here for this world to embrace, and hopefully a lot of kung fu.
Whoa. Our next segment I like to call Happy Gray, Sad Gray. Which would you like first, Gray?
Well, I'm happy.
Okay, well, we will start with Happy Gray first. And that is the second-gen Sonos Beam soundbar arrives with Dolby Atmos and a $50 US price hike. Improved Mini soundbar comes after price increases across the Sonos lineup. Gray, you sent this over to us today with some all caps. Why don't you talk us through this one here? What is the Sonos Beam, and why does this successor to it inspire you so much?
Well, the Sonos Beam is actually it's one of the most popular soundbars on the market right now. And so Sonos has really, as far as distributed audio goes, they've really been killing it. When the Beam first came out, it was the first playbar they'd released after the Sonos Playbar. And it was this compact little playbar that did a great job, does Dolby Digital, has Alexa and Google built in, which for some folks they keep it on. I've got mine turned off on my Arc downstairs, but just a really nicely put together little system. And so the biggest complaint about Sonos for going on almost like 10 years now has been that the Playbar did not, and the Playbar and the Playbar series here did not do DTS. It's been one of those like main complaints from people who care a lot about features on the box, but not necessarily the real world usability. And so there are
didn't do DTS or didn't do Dolby Atmos.
I didn't do DTS.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. So when the Arc came out, the Arc does Dolby Digital, Dolby Digital Plus, which is they've got the uncompressed version, and then it also did Dolby Atmos.
Okay.
And so that was the big reason to upgrade there. But it still didn't do DTS. And for some folks out there, the lack of DTS was the main reason to rail on Sonos Playbars in general, because you've got a lot of other also rounds that did. Now, speaking as someone who has been in the home theater space since, back when DVD was single layered, I've got a lot of DTS discs downstairs, back when I used to flip through my discs all the time. And I can tell you, I went out way back when and bought the Dolby Digital version of Jurassic Park and the DTS version of Jurassic Park. And I watched them back to back and actually would flip back and forth between two different scenes on two different DVD players on the same receiver to see if I could tell the difference. The only difference that I found was DTS was recorded louder. And so I don't give a gosh darn that DTS is coming to Sonos, but there are people who do. And for those of you out there, welcome home. Welcome to distributed music that's easy to do, wireless, and now you can buy the Sonos and stop complaining. You won't, but
What?
you could.
Yeah, no. Haters gonna hate.
All right. So you were talking about the other. It was the Sonos Play Bar. Is that what it was? And that
Yeah,
one,
so
and that one
was-
didn't have DTS, and now it does. And now we're talking about the Sonos Beam Gen 2, and its
Yes.
big thing is the support for Dolby Atmos, which is supposedly equivalent of like 12 speakers or what have
Yes.
you. Now, what is your confidence level in the ability for a sound bar to actually recreate proper surround sound? Because there's been a number of attempts at this, and a lot of it seems to depend on the size and shape of the room that you're in. And if you've got one side of the room is like open, say to a dining room or something, that makes things a little trickier. So what are your thoughts on that? Is this actually worth it?
It is actually worth it. And I can tell you from my own experience living in a 22-foot high, I think it's maybe 20 feet wide concrete box in the sky, the Arc does it. So there is a process that you go through called TruePlay with the Sonos Arc, and I would imagine with the Beam now, where it uses your iPhone, and it does have to be an iPhone at this point, I do believe. So if you don't have one, you can find a friend. I believe there's a few of us on Craigslist who will offer our Sonos TruePlay services to come over and do that for you. But you basically sit down where you will be watching your content, and it plays a series of audio pulses and basically recognizes where that is in relation to the room. And then the second component of it, which is usually the only component that you do for music, is you walk around the room. And it now gives it context as to what the room looks like from an audio perspective. It gives you first and second reflections, and actually tunes the system to sound good. It does a phenomenal job, right? We saw this type of technology originally with Yamaha's sound projector, is what they called it. And it worked back then. They used to have a microphone on a string that would pop out, and the microphone would sit where you would sit, and it would basically give you that. But Sonos is taking it a step further. So what I was saying about DTS is now that's actually been backfilled to most of the catalog. It will do DTS now, but Dolby Atmos is now available in both the Beam and in the Arc. Difference there, obviously, is the Arc is a little bit more powerful, and the Beam is a little bit smaller. So they've basically got soundbars in a variety of different price points and sizes for a lot of folks out there. And I think this is going to be a real hit come the holiday season.
And this one is going for about $449 US, which, as mentioned, is a $50 bump from the Gen 1 Sonos Beam. Gray, what considerations or what type of buyer do you think would be appropriate for the Sonos versus recent offerings from Sony and Bose in this department?
Honestly, if you want distributed music at all, so you want music in more than one room, there really isn't a whole lot of competition for Sonos. There are a few people out there. Google has recently just lost a patent fight with Sonos, and you'll probably see they'll be paying a little bit for what they're doing here. You may also see some features removed from some Google stuff because they don't own the IP. And so it just goes to show you if you should actually do your own homework and not copy somebody else's. But if you're looking to have a great music experience, Sonos is a really great way to go. Also, if you've got a space like mine, where we are all glass and concrete here, and you are not running wires, under rugs or around the room, then this is a really good way to go. It will give you fully wireless outside of the power cables home theater. And that includes the sub, the surrounds, and the soundbar itself. The soundbar obviously has to be connected up to the TV, but other than that, you can have a fully wireless audio system, no cables, no nothing, all over your house with everything from the $150 Play ones. All the way up to the $1,000 Sonos Arc.
So if you're not interested in the distributed music, then you might be able to save a few bucks looking at some of the other options.
If you're just looking for a home theater, sure. And if you don't need a wireless home theater, if you're looking to build a home theater that does Dolby Atmos, and you like big speakers around the house, amazing. Go buy yourself a receiver and a couple of separates. A home theater box I wouldn't necessarily do, but a lot of the soundbar and wireless audio solutions are that step up from that home theater in the box. You're going to get similar quality to the separates or better in some cases. I will say that, I used to spend a fair amount of money on my home theater separates and was very, very proud of them. And then looking at my Sonos system now, it costs as much or more, but the sheer convenience of it and the just works factor plus the music streaming, it really is kind of your best bang for your buck, in my opinion.
Yeah, home theater salespeople will say you should spend at least as much money on the audio as you do on the video side. So your screens and whatnot, and that is maybe getting thrown off a little bit, given that TVs are getting so cheap for what you get. But
Yeah.
you
Well,
don't want to ignore the audio component for sure to get that full experience. I'm looking at you, Will.
I look at it this way: you've got 2 eyes and 2 ears. Spend 25% of your budget on each one of them.
Okay, well, if you've only got 3/4 of the budget,
If you're Nick Fury, you were spending less on the TV and more on the sound system.
Will, you had mentioned that you're thinking of upgrading your TV to 4K at some point, and you might do your audio then. Do you care about the distributed audio, like the music, having music all over your house, or would you be focusing just on the home theater surround sound experience to augment your visuals?
I think it's mostly just for the home theater. And I probably start off baby steps with a sort of all-in-one kind of solution. Sound bars sound like a good pathway forward. Part of the problem with the distributed audio is my wife likes the Backstreet Boys, and I like good music. So there's a bit of a problem with, So I'm just saying, and that's what we do. We do headphones and look, everyone has different tastes. I'm joking. She likes Lifehouse and the Backstreet Boys and things like that. Her Christmas music, I think it's pretty good. She has to listen to John Denver and the Muppets every year, which I quite enjoy, or I've begun to enjoy after several years. But yeah, for the most part, we don't agree on music. So I'll probably not be distributing music through my house, particularly because my wife particularly hates my music. It's that we agree on a lot of things. There's a lot of commonalities, but music is not one that we like.
And that's why she doesn't come. And that's why she doesn't come to gigs with us.
No. That and sitting in the back of a loud club drinking a Coke was maybe not her thing.
Pro tip: if you want to enjoy your music wearing headphones, and you still want to have a dance party with your significant other, just find music that is beat matched. So find similar BPMs, whether it's 120 or 130 or even 95. Make sure and then you can still dance together, kind of in sync. Don't be like how they do in the movies where they have all the extras dancing and then they pipe in the music later, and it's what they're dancing to is not the music that's being played in the film soundtrack. So you with a little bit of effort, you could actually have a dance party with your wife, to an appropriate in sync beat. Not in sync, though. Not in sync. Backstreet Boys only.
Not in sync. Have you seen that viral video of those what is it, cyber neo-goth ravers dancing to All I Want for Christmas from Mariah Carey? It's a classic.
Beautiful. I'm going to point this out. Those cyber goths, none of them got sick. All of them were wearing gas masks. COVID, not a problem.
And eye protection usually.
All right, now it's time for sad gray, or maybe is it angry gray? Amazon is releasing its own TVs with Alexa built in. We mentioned Alexa when we were talking about the Sonos devices there, and Amazon has their Amazon Basics, and of course, where they borrow the ideas from all sorts of great Amazon merchants over the years. And they also have their Fire TV sticks and other devices for piping in their Prime Video services and other streaming services. So, Gray, what's the problem with having an Amazon Fire TV? They've got the Omni series and the 4 series, which, are pretty affordable. You got the Omni series, which is the headliner, starting at just $410 US. What's the catch?
To be honest, I think this is a great idea because you can walk into somebody's house and see this thing. We just don't have to be friends anymore. It's interesting because it's like I feel like they've got more than anyone else. They have a bridge to cross here for a lot of users. The pervasive nature that we're finding, as well as their aggressive practices at retail. I don't know that they've actually got too much time here before there could be a serious shift in corporate culture without Mr. Bezos. It's his sort of self-styled cowboy ways. I don't know will be able to persist, and that's why I'm not too worried about this. the way that Alexa has been building a profile for a lot of people out there has led to, a lot of the reports that I've seen, and then, it's not, they say that the plural of anecdote is not data, but hearing folks go, I just don't want that connected to what I do anymore. So I'm finding alternate ways around that. Or just using it very specifically for things like turning lights on, lights off, but not actually connecting up to their shopping account. I think Amazon's probably going to, they are seeing this on the back end, and they're seeing that it's not going to be a way forwards for them. So looking at this, I'm hoping that they're going to look at this and find a way for people to maintain their privacy. That said, some of the features that I've seen from Amazon, as far as what's going on with Prime, is Prime Video. The X-ray features that we saw from Kindle come over to Prime. They're great. They talk about this here, saying, TV was a passive experience, and making it something that people, are more interested in interacting with. I don't necessarily see a downside. The one thing, and you kind of hit on this, which is looking at what people do well, taking those ideas and running with them. Those are the kind of predatory practices that I think that Amazon they're tempting fate, because you're going to see some American companies that Amazon does run afoul of. And I can guarantee you that there are plenty of senators out there who will look at this and go, this is our opportunity. So they've got a tightrope to walk here. I think they can do it. But this is a combination of a lot of cool technologies, right? Far field voice for good voice control, as opposed to yelling across their own voice control. High quality sets, good quality pricing. I don't hate it.
Will, in your buying or shopping around for a new TV, are you going to be looking for a smart TV like this one from Amazon, which could be one of the smarter smart TVs out there, or are you looking for a dumb TV and then plugging in the brains separately?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these tough things. We're back and forth on it. I think part of it is we also need a new brain because we are using. Traditionally, I've used like a PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. And so we want to upgrade that. So whether the TV is part of that package is one of the things that we're looking at. I'm personally not a big fan of the proprietary technology often locked in these TVs and what they're communicating with, as Gray has brought up in the past about what data is being, brought around. I'm already in the Xbox or PlayStation ecosystem to play video games. So, I feel a little bit better about that for some reason than giving my data to Amazon. So I'm not a big fan of, particularly as Gray said, sharing my data with Amazon. Now, having said that, I buy lots of stuff on Amazon, so they know, that I buy mics and comic books. But in terms of other things, I kind of want to narrow it. So we're still on the fence on that one. And Gray brings up a good point just in general with Amazon, is that, it's kind of maybe not unusual, but it's I don't know if there's a lot of people who love Amazon. It's very ubiquitous. A lot of people use it, but it has a pretty bad reputation in many ways. And maybe that's partly just, the stories about people who work in their head office or people who work in their distribution centers. There's not a lot of good stories coming out of that company, not like something like Apple. Obviously, Apple has its critics, but there's a lot of people who have traditionally over the years been big fans of that brand and that company and their vision of things. I'm not sure there's a lot of people wanting to go to a convention and talk about how much they love Amazon and their business practices and their corporate culture. So
even though they're all mostly using Amazon on a pretty regular basis.
but that's what I'm saying. It's so weird. It's like everyone uses it, but no one really likes it. So it's kind of one of these things where it could be ripe for a fall. Like all it needs is the right conditions where people go, oh yeah, I don't need to use that thing. Let's bring her down. So that's where I think they are on, shaky ground in that sense. Now, having said that, they're still firmly holding that shaky ground. But if the market conditions were right, I could see everything going topsy-turvy for them if they're not careful, because they haven't built up strong brand loyalty. And if people have options, they're not going to pick Amazon. That's just my opinion on it, but I could be wrong. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Certainly interesting to get into this foray. I also see this kind of thing, and I guess it is kind of connecting the dots on a few things for them. But I also think, like, do what you're good at. Like, keep on sort of reaching into other territories. It's what we've talked about before with Facebook. It's like trying to add on more features or more things. Like, they still haven't got Prime TV, I think, totally dialed in my opinion. But yeah, so anyways, that's my thoughts on it. But I probably wouldn't buy this one, but it certainly does look like an interesting TV and a collection of technologies.
Yeah, I think you could chalk this endeavor and other similar ones that Amazon getting into other hardware is the quest for margin, right? There's only so much margin you can make in retail, and most of us have worked in retail, and you know that private label stuff, you can make some better margins on, right? You're cutting out the middleman to a certain extent. So we'll see if a lot of their other projects in the past, like the Kindle Fire tablets and whatnot, again, cheap. Not super great quality. The Kindle e-readers, on the other hand, are generally pretty well liked, even though there are competitors out there. The ecosystem tends to be a little closed, however. As regards smart TVs in general, I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of buying the best quality screen one can get, and not only hooking up the TV for any firmware updates to the network and then disconnecting from the network, and then having the brains separate, whether it's an Apple TV or your streaming box of choice, Roku, etc., even an Amazon Fire Stick. But so many cheap TVs nowadays, they're subsidized through advertising. So they pay, they may be scanning pixels in the corner of the screen, and they can tell what you're watching because they've got giant, databases to keep track of this, and they're really in the data business. And I think Vizio has even talked about this. Roku, they get a lot of money on the advertising side now because they're accumulating so much data. So that's why, of course, I lean to big dumb screen and plug in an Apple TV to it, and even though they're kind of overpriced, but you pay one way or the other. It's either with your dollars or your privacy. And some people, don't care so much about their privacy nowadays. So.
No, it's good to hear. I mean, that's sort of where I was leaning as well. So,
okay. So, are we ready? Are we ready for to take us down the second half of the show here? Now that we've kept people waiting and made them tune out, when are they going to talk about Apple? We all watch the event.
People watching?
No. No. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Only mums. So first up, Apple 10.2-inch iPad updated with A13 chip, 64 gigabytes of storage, 12 megapixel front camera, starting at $329. So $329 US. They're holding the line on the price point there. As with a lot of the other products we're going to be talking about today, seems to be incremental upgrade. It's been, what is it, a year and a half, or I guess 2.5 years since Apple's education event, when they last updated the the iPad Prime, we could call it, the base iPad, which when it launched, we remember back in 2010 was actually $499. So it's come down to $329, $170 over the last decade or more. So. Will, you are an iPad user. What model are you rocking at this? Oh no, hang on, you just got an iPad Pro.
I did.
Right. Okay. So now,
so nuts to this thing.
Well, seeing what you get for this price compared to what you're getting for your iPad Pro and the price that was, are you feeling any buyer's remorse at all? Because the low end, they keep improving.
No, I mean, this is an impressive little device, and particularly like the video where they were, making you feel better about doctors using it in the field and police officers and all this thing, and when really you're just going to be looking at this on your couch or something like that. But but it makes you feel good that these things could be good in the world. No, I mean. I like the big screen. I mean, this is one thing where my wife likes portability. She likes smaller devices she can put in her purse and go to a doctor's appointment or go to, her parents and just quickly look something up on a small device. I like a bigger, more powerful device. And I know this is, incrementally, more powerful than the previous version. in some ways, all these specs, I mean, are you guys surprised by this? I think it's just bringing it up in line with the iPad Pro in terms of, functionality with the Apple Pencil 2 and, some of the stuff with.
Oh, so that's we got to be careful. We're clarifying. The Apple Pencil 2 is for the iPad Mini. This iPad we're talking about only works with Apple Pencil 1.
Okay.
So
they found a warehouse full of them, and they're like, we got to do something.
We got to get rid of it. Yeah,
is this the only one that still has a Lightning port? We should make this work with that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fair enough. Sorry, I got those ones mixed up.
No worries. Well, that's the thing, is that there's a whole lot of stuff that they announced all at once. But to your point though, they did bring some of the Pro type features down here, like including Center Stage. That Center Stage was just brought to the iPads Pro this year, and already it's on the base level iPad now. Mm-hmm. It's got great battery life. It's got the processor is a couple of generations behind, being the A13 versus the A15 that's in the new iPhones, and I guess the iPads Pro that just came out a couple months ago that you both got have the M1 in there. So this is the kind of thing that's perfect for schools, education, kids, and the like. It's got a decent sized screen, 10.2. They increased the size from 9.7 a couple of years ago. So that gets us in the door. But let's, while we're talking about, let's move right over to the iPad Mini, which is, if you talk about something you could throw in a handbag or a purse. I'm a fan of the iPad Mini myself, and it got a bit more of an overhaul because, to your point, Will, it's got now the design cues of the iPad Pro and the iPad Air that was revised last year as well. So, Gray, what do you think of what Apple's doing on the iPad Mini side here?
Well, first of all, the iPad as it stands right now, the entry level, great, like perfect for education. Yep. Also, I'm gonna get one for my parents. They want an iPad, but they didn't want to pay too much for one. Mm-hmm. Perfect, done. There's my iPad Mini money, straight up. I don't need it. I don't need it at all, but I want it, and it's great. USB-C, awesome. Brilliant. Apple Pencil 2, brilliant. Fits in, all the little shoulder bags that I carry that my iPad Pro doesn't. Brilliant. Those little folios, brilliant. Yes, done. Take my money. Like, it's just, I looked at it and went, because I missed my iPad Mini. My dad's got me my iPad, I think it was the iPad Mini 2, which no longer gets software updates, but still will breed websites for him. But I've missed it. The iPad Pro is great because I use that as a work device. I do a ton of, I've got the keyboard and whatnot here, and the actual devices downstairs in another case, because sometimes you just want to consume as opposed to create. The Mini is it's beautiful. It's just this beautiful little nugget of Apple technology with LTE and 5G, and it's great. And the liquid retina display, everything about this is awesome. I'm so stoked that it's back, and I love the design keys around it, the squared off edges, and so that means that if you've got an iPad Pro and an iPad Mini and perhaps an iPhone 13 Pro, like I might in a couple of months, I'm gonna have all three of these devices. It's gonna look like a little Matryoshka doll. I'm so stoked for it.
Well, that's the thing, is the Mini and the iPad Mini and the iPhone 13 Pro Max. There's not that huge of a delta between them now. No. But the cool thing with the Mini is that they've increased the screen size from 7.9 inches up to 8.3 inches in the same footprint, and it's got the flat edges, which is in line with the iPhones for the last couple of years, and of course the iPad Pros from the iPads Pro from the last couple of years as well. And so it's classic Apple formula of starting things off at the high end devices, and over time, over the course of years, filtering those features, and whether they're hardware and software features or design features, down to the lower end ones, and then everyone feels like they're getting a taste of the high life.
Well, it's a good, better, best thing, right? Mm-hmm. So you have the top sort of flagship. I mean, they do this with the iPhones as well, and then they also upgrade the lower end, as we were talking about, with the 10-inch iPad, and just having options, and some of these things go into, like you say, education, or are brought over for lower income sort of education purposes, or overseas and things like that, because they're cheaper to requisition and distribute and all that kind of stuff. But also having the smaller device is right in line. I personally like the big beefy one because I think this looks absolutely, can I say the word sexy? The iPad mini. But if I'm being honest with myself, which is difficult, Gray, I'm not good at this. What's the use case for me as opposed to I just got the iMac or the iPad Pro?
Use case.
What's
Want
this
case.
thing? Yes.
Want case. Need case? No. Use case? Who cares? Want case. Yeah.
Want case. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, those little folios are just
new colors.
cool.
Can we talk a little bit about that? So we mentioned this earlier. No more black, no more white. Midnight and starlight. Sound like heroes from The Boys. Great. Cool. I'm looking at the starlight right now. I'm actually, clearly I'm looking at the purple. But the starlight's sexy. The starlight with the orange, I'm like, oh.
Well, I think I was making the joke to you guys. So I have a white cat and a gray cat. So now I have a space gray cat and a starlight cat.
Correct.
So the iPad mini has that 12 megapixel ultra wide camera now, up from 8 megapixels, which they did on the standard iPad as well. Support for center stage, also adding True Tone, which is great for making sure your whites look white no matter the lighting conditions. And like the iPad Prime, let's call it, also the Apple's A13 Bionic processor in there. So giving it a 20% performance boost. So again, this is iterative. The people buying iPads and iPads mini generally aren't huge performance people. I mean, unless they're into serious gaming. But if you're really serious about gaming on an iPad, you might be leaning towards a Pro anyhow. But for something to keep the kids entertained, these will do just fine. And we have in our household, we've got an iPad 2, which is iPad Mini 2, which is not so useful anymore. An iPad Mini 5, which my wife uses, great for to use as an e-reader and also for casual games. And I'm using her old iPad Air 2, which is 6 years old. So I'm looking at this latest Mini, and it looks pretty good. But so this image on the screen right now, if it's not, you can't see it right now. So this is the regular iPad with the keyboard cover. What I want to know is someone going to release a keyboard cover for the mini with a teeny little keyboard, because I do enjoy doing, getting some work done on the couch without having my full laptop on me on occasion. So anyway, but you guys both have iPads Pro, so you're probably not in the market for this, although Gray, depending on how bad with money you're feeling.
Yeah, no, I'm getting one.
Okay.
I only need one, kid. It's ridiculous. Have you tried Scribble with the pencil?
Yes.
Yeah. And see, any thought for keyboard versus that?
Well, wasn't there also
still type faster with digits?
Fair. Yeah.
About the lag, that the lag was even less on the it was improved.
Yeah. Well, now that they're moving to the Apple Pencil 2 for sure. Yeah. And I think this is like might be the unsung hero of the event, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the Touch ID on the top, the pencil snapping on the side, the cases. What I do need to see, which I do not see right now, is the combination of all of the cases and all of the colors of iPad, because that electric orange is hot.
Other thing,
but we're seeing it right now with just the starlight in the pictures. I'm like, I want to see what this looks like across, because on it, that may be it. Maybe I'm going to go with the creamsicle. I'm going to go with the starlight with the electric orange, because it's not like I have more than one. Anyway,
quick question for you guys. So these other two things that we haven't talked about yet were rumored, and I think we even talked about it. I hadn't heard about the iPad mini. Was this something that we knew was coming, or was this hot damn?
There were no reliable leaks that cited what we saw. There was lots of people who were talking, probably iPad mini, maybe iPad mini, because it's
time kind of thing. Yeah. But no, nothing definitive.
Because the other two things were either blatantly known or highly rumored.
There had been leaked, mock-ups and whatnot. Some stuff come from because the iPhone supply chain is just, it's so massive and so complicated, and stuff just squeaks out of there, including dummies that go to case manufacturers and stuff like that. So just for those playing at home, the iPad Mini, the latest iteration, starts at $499 US. So $649. Yeah, so $170 US more than the entry-level iPad. So it is a more capable yet smaller device. You pay for miniaturization, but I can't wait to get my hands on one. Check it out in the store. Santa, don't forget about me.
Oh,
all right.
They've actually got this on the site here. So there's no smart keyboard from Apple directly, but they do say Bluetooth keyboards at the bottom. So Logitech's working on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really happy. I don't have it in front of me here with the clam case keyboard for the iPad Air 2, and it's almost like a little MacBook Air that when it's all folded together. It's hard to find good keyboards, so there's a lot of trial and error that's required there. Speaking of keyboards, the Apple Watch 7 features a tiny keyboard. If you really want to use that, if you like, Steve Jobs once said, when he was criticizing the whole notion of 7-inch tablets before Apple introduced their 7.9-inch iPad Mini back in the day, he was saying that people would have to like carve their fingertips down and be able to use to be able to use the touch targets on a smaller iPad. But just imagine how you'd have to really carve your fingers down to use a keyboard on an Apple Watch. They're offering that as another input method in addition to drawing the letters or using your voice. Gray, you have been in the Apple Watch market for a while because you're rocking a 4 at the moment, right?
Right here.
Yeah. So you and I both got what's now known as the 0, the original Apple Watch back in the summer of 2015. You upgraded to the 4. I held off for a couple more years and got the 6. My wife and I got the 6 last fall, and we've been loving them, especially once they introduced the always on display, and the sleep tracking is a nice touch too. So what does the 7 bring to the table, Gray?
Bigger screen, edge-to-edge screens. So they've gone with something that, again, can fit up to 50% more as far as readability goes with the text. Some great new features as far as watch faces as well. My favorite feature is one that isn't new, which is it fits all of the original bands, which, having a massive collection of bands is great.
And from an e-waste perspective too, thank the Lord, they're holding the line on that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that said, I still haven't got rid of my Series 0. I've got it on a Flava Flav style neck chain. So,
nice.
Just looking at this, the thing that gets me right now is coming this fall. You teased me, Apple. You teased me. And this actually kind of like just sort of flips back to something we were talking about earlier, where the entry-level line is the Apple Watch Series 3, the one prior to this, as well as the Apple Watch SE. I will say the one thing that I'm loving as well is the culmination of all of these features over the course of years. I don't feel like I'm missing out without the always-on screen and the VO2 Max, and all this, but as soon as I get them, I'm really excited for them. So kind of looking at their entire lineup, it doesn't feel like FOMO is really driving things for Apple anymore. You get a capable product that lasts a long time, and then when the next one comes along, when you feel good about moving on to the next thing, you can and you do. The new bands that they've got as well are just absolutely fantastic. Like, I'm loving some of the new colors. Have you tried the stretchy fabric loop one?
No.
I'm
You're
addicted.
stealing my move.
I'm addicted. It's they're great. So like lots of really cool stuff with watchOS 8, but obviously this new device really is, and you kind of said it earlier, like it's not a huge upgrade, but I think it's enough. And because enough of us are on a cadence now, which isn't every year or even every other year, it's not even TikTok. It's like, yeah, I'll get there. But there's just enough of us that I think it's actually going to sustain Apple going forwards.
I think that's a common theme through most of the announcements today is that, and this is something that some of the tech press doesn't get, or maybe they're just trying to do hot takes, or maybe they're cynical or whatever. It's like, it's not that big an upgrade from last year. It's like, yeah, how many people do you know actually upgrade their Apple Watches or their any kind of smartphone or any kind of tablet or any kind of laptop every year? You dunderhead. Like, come on, these are for people who are often 3 or 4 years. Like, I'm 4 years since my last iPhone, and I'm not sure if I'm upgrading or not. 6 years on the iPad that I'm using. Only 1 year in on the current Apple Watch, but before that it was 5 years. So you look at those kinds of gaps, the 3 year, 4 year, 5 year gaps that a lot of normal people are using, and even some tech people like ourselves, we try to get the most value out of them, just because I mean, it's fun to joke about being bad with money, but you don't want to be too bad with money, because if we're not having, none of us have kids, so no one to take care of us. We got to we have to make sure we can afford to hire other people to take care of us at some point, especially if we don't have enough nieces and nephews. So
I figured I'd have robots do that.
well, is it going to be one from Tesla, or is it going to be one from Hyundai? You know, the Atlas from Boston Dynamics. So
Right.
just be careful; it doesn't tear off your limbs as it's tucking you into bed. So I don't feel bad. I mean, it's cool. I don't feel any particular FOMO here, but in a couple of years, especially as they continue to update watch OS, then as the devices get slow, that's what always happens with computers, because they're always optimizing operating systems and software for the newest iterations. It's not a conspiracy. It's called technology marches forward. So that was one of the biggest reliefs for me when after 5 years we upgraded our Apple Watches. It's like, yeah, it takes less than 10 seconds to do things now. Hallelujah. So, Will, you've been firmly in the Fitbit camp for a while. Is there anything that you see from this latest Apple Watch upgrade tempting you at all? The nice bigger screen, but on the same footprint, for example?
Not really. I mean, I think I'm with you. I mean, I have a device I'm happy with. I am mostly in the Apple ecosystem. I don't need a lot of features from my phone, or sorry, my watch. But I feel like I have a lot of this stuff on other devices. I think they're cool. Nothing against Apple Watches. I like them. I just, nothing that's making me run out and get one. I think originally we were more about the fitness end and lower end price points. So that's why my wife and I originally started on Fitbit. Sometimes I think that like Fitbit's languishing a little bit in terms of technology. The app I find is not working as well as it used to. So, maybe down the road, but I'll change devices, and this would be one of the ones I would think of. But I definitely like the digital watches, the smart watches. I don't know if Fitbit really qualifies as a smart watch. It's more of a
fitness tracker,
and
that's okay,
with a strap on it. So that's kind of my speed of it. But yeah.
So speaking of fitness tracking, that's what Apple has really leaned into with this iteration of the Apple Watch and Watch OS, because there's a feature that a lot of people are looking for, a health feature, and Apple's been pushing the health features for a number of years now, but including the blood oxygen readings, which you have now, and the EKG, but a lot of people say, when are they going to have blood glucose monitoring? And that's harder than it seems. Generally speaking, you got to still prick people's skin to get that. So they're working on the sensors for that. Google's been working on that too, and I think they abandoned their project there. So we'll see if it happens. So in the meantime, Apple's like kind of pivoting back to and leaning into the fitness tracking as opposed to the health features, which, there's still lots of great health features in there, but they're just not adding much in the way of new stuff. But they increasing the durability, the charging speed, the water resistance, and now it's got IP6X dust resistance, which is great for those who like to, go dune buggying or something. But and some fancy new Hermes bands.
The double tour.
Yes, exactly.
Just on a bit of a sidetrack. So my mother actually has diabetes, and there's actually been big revolutions in terms of monitoring and distribution of drugs for people with diabetes. And so she actually has something that's, I guess, semi-implanted. I joke around and call her a cyborg. But yeah, it's hard to get away from the finger pricking or some sort of invasive piece of technology when it comes to that. So I think it's probably a little bit farther down the road. Maybe if Elizabeth Holmes gets out, we can get her working on the miniaturization of blood sampling.
You've got a revolutionary new technology. Let me get my turtleneck.
Yes.
My turtleneck's coming out in October. Just a teaser there.
Is it miniaturized?
Yeah. So and so to your point, it's still a little invasive for the blood glucose monitoring there, and but and we'll see how it goes with Apple and others still researching that. But it could go the way of the Apple TV, like actual television set, or the Apple Car. We'll see. It could be a long ways off still. So, like, getting to the stars of the event. iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini announced with redesigned camera array and smaller notch. I'd heard rumors about a smaller notch. Honestly, when they're showing it in the keynote, I barely noticed. I didn't notice at all. And so I think it's maybe a touch smaller there. Some nice new colors. Blue, I guess. And like a light pink in there. Again, pretty incremental upgrade from the iPhone 12. It's gone up from the A14 Bionic to the A15 Bionic. They've added an extra. Did they any extra cores? They got 6-core CPU and
there's a 5-core graphics in the iPhone 13 Pro.
In the Pro, okay. So the regular 13s are as is. They've improved the ultra wide camera, and again, lots of other little things: night mode, time lapse, etc., etc. Gray, you're rocking what, an iPhone 11? Is that correct?
11 Pro. My parents both have 11s. Ray and I have 11 Pros. It's great. Battery life is down to 80-ish%, which my Apple Care Plus runs out on September the 27th. And so I went and priced out some new phones today. Can I tell you the neatest thing that I found? Two things. One, Apple is now using PayBright in Canada. So you can do 6 months, 0 interest equal payments on all of your stuff.
Unless you're in Quebec.
Nope. Actually includes Quebec. It's up at the top. I know. I don't know how they did it.
Quebec Libre.
No, you still have to pay for it. But they're also now offering monthly Apple Care Plus at $12.50 per month that does not have an expiry. Yeah. So now you get 2 times a year where you can smash your screen accidentally. It's going to cost you $40 to get it replaced, but your battery's covered forever.
Nice.
As long as you keep paying for Apple Care Plus. Because that's been the motivation for me to buy the new iPhone on my TikTok rhythm. Not TikTok rhythm, you know what I mean. But
video forthcoming.
You're right. But Apple Care Plus not being there, it feels like I'm trapezing without a safety net, and I just don't like it. And I mentioned to you guys earlier today. I'm like, just look at the disaster that is the edge of this phone. I toss this thing across the room like it's my job. And I live in a concrete and glass house. It's surprising that this thing hasn't smashed more often. So looking at the iPhone 13 today, my parents are on iPhone 11s. Do they need a new iPhone? No. Are they getting a new iPhone? No. Not this year. Probably next year. The iPhone 13, though, I'm looking at it and like all of the awesome stuff that I was lusting at from the iPhone 12 Pro last year are in this thing.
So another case of pro features making their way down the lineup,
but it's getting faster and faster and faster.
While they're eking out even more battery life. The iPhone 13, they're saying up to 2.5 hours more battery life compared to the 12, and the iPhone 13 mini, which battery life has been a reported issue for people. They're getting another. It's got a smaller battery, to be fair, right? An extra 1.5 hours more battery life than the iPhone 12 mini. So they're making some gains there, and that's thanks to the efficiencies of Apple Silicon. And then they've also made a number of camera enhancements as well. The cameras just keep getting better and better.
The diagonal alignment I thought was kind of neat, because when you're looking at a lot of phones nowadays, they've all kind of got that similar setup. So Apple's like, what we're going to do? This.
Why not?
Great.
Why not? Will, what are you rocking phone wise at the moment?
A 10 XR or something.
10R, yeah. So that came out the year after the 10. Cool. And how are you liking it?
I'm liking it okay. We're going to upgrade this year, so I think I might get a 13 or maybe get a 12 on the cheap side. So yeah.
Are you tempted by 13 mini at all? Like a smaller, a bit smaller? No. Oh, there's something kind of appealing to me about going very, very tight. But whatever the case is, my wife Stephanie and I have to kind of choose the same thing, because it's no fun having to adjust the kind of phone holders we have in our cars. There's no fun having to adjust them back and forth. Until such point as maybe we upgrade to MagSafe holders. But so we are kind of going with the same size for now. We both got 10s and they were great. But before that, she had a 6 and I had a 6S, and that's like,
first world problems.
Exactly.
So the 13, I think we're all kind of looking at it and going, nice. But the 13 Pro,
dun dun dun.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
all of the things, all of the things.
I love that blue too.
They couldn't help themselves, could they? It's just, yeah,
Pretty sexy. Pretty
and
sexy.
here's the thing. Like, we were talking to Tasia earlier today, and it's like
Who?
soon to be returning Tasia Custodi.
Yes, I hope. I miss her.
So, and looking at this, like get to the point of all of these things, and then Apple just kind of went crazy with all of the amazing stuff, and it's I mean, a lot of it's revolving around the camera system. When you think about how, I think a lot of folks that are rocking the Pro are interacting with it. Yes, there are people who are using it for business, but a lot of us are just like, let me capture cool things about the world, and being able to find your particular look for photos. I know I've gone through Photoshop Express and I've set up presets for things that I go through, and I kind of apply that every single time. But now that's going to be part of the image pipeline. I can set that for the type of shot that I want to take. It's doing ProRes, high-end encoding for video, which, I mean, I joked earlier today, I'm like, Final Cut Pro for the iPad Pro's got to be coming soon. Maybe not, but like, this is just, it takes these steps out of the process that take people time and energy and effort, and just lets them focus on being creative. And I'm so here for it.
Well, even things like rack focus, the cinema.
Will, can you explain for what rack focus is?
So basically, that's changing the area of focus. So you'll have one subject that's crisp and in focus, and the background will be blurred. And then sort of on the fly, you can switch to something in the background, and the thing in the foreground will be blurred, and the thing in the background will be in focus. And that's often used in video and cinema to show various sort of shifts of perspective. The demo video that they showed was basically like some sort of investigator going into a house, sort of like, what was the movie Knives Out? Or
it had a very Knives Out vibe to it.
Very Knives Out vibe. And so it's like people looking at each other suspiciously. So dog looking at the butler, and the butler looking at the wife, and the wife looking at the son. And so they would shift between one person being in focus and the other person being in the background, and the background person then being in the focus and the person in the foreground. So basically that's what rack focus is. So that's it's been used for decades, but was super popular maybe about 10 years ago as we started getting good DSLRs with good lenses that could really do that.
And that's Apple's really doubling down on the differentiator in being a video in the iPhones, because when it comes to photography, it's a horse race between Apple and Samsung and Google with their Pixel line of smartphones. Google tends to lean on the software side of things to really get the most out of sort of mid-range sensors. Apple spends a lot of time on the sensors and on the glass, and was playing catch up on the software side. But when it comes to video, like, no one touches Apple yet. So, I mean, the others are trying, but Apple's just like doubling down here with the things like rack focus and being able to, tap your focus targets live as you're filming. I mean, one of the videos they showed is like, a professional video production crew. It almost looked a little silly having a teeny little phone compared to what you might expect on a professional video production with all the sound guys and whatnot around as well. But it's amazing what you can actually shoot on iPhones. Yeah.
For professional rack focus, like back in the day, they would have on a big movie, you'll have a director of photography, and you might have two people operating the focus and knowing, marking on the lens where they're going to stop, and like having this sort of like dance move about doing the rack focus and moving the camera at the same time. So having this where you just touch it is pretty crazy.
Yeah, they were called the focus pullers, right? That's a union job right there.
Yeah,
they took our jobs.
Well, and so I mean, when DSLR shooting first started to become a thing, off of Kickstarter, I bought a focus pulling device where you could have your shoulder rig on, and as person who's basically piloting the camera, you could focus pull, and you'd actually set stops on it so you could repeat those moves. Never having to do that again is so exciting. Like, we can actually shoot fun, interesting, neat things. And even when it comes to portrait mode, I mean, when it first came out on the 10, point your phone at your cat, as I want to do,
80% of video and portraiture is of cats, I'm sure.
And back on the 10, it didn't really recognize pets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it didn't quite get it. And so half of those shots would be wasted. You know, cut to the 11 Pro, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of, they've talked about how it can see pets now. Now you can dial in the bokeh as you're shooting the shot, and with far more control than you could with the 11 Pro. This is an easy upgrade.
Now, Gray, would you be leaning toward Pro or Pro Max?
Pro.
Okay.
It's just, you know, I love the idea of the Pro Max. I'm sure there are people out there with just absolute massive mitts. You know, I don't have Trump style iPhone 13 mini style hands, but the iPhone 13 Pro I think is perfect for me.
Dude, they showed photos of people holding the iPad mini one-handed. So,
well, and here's the thing, you know, that's it. Like I will absolutely do the basketball style grip on that. But when it comes to pulling your phone out of your pocket,
I'm cramping.
When it comes to pulling your phone out of your pocket, right? I had the 7, and I started to develop a callus right there because I had to hold my phone up like that, and then I realized I was getting arthritic in the joint there on my little finger. It wasn't working. So this right now, it does the thing. Fits in the palm of my hand. I've got a good grip on. This is why I sort of custom. Got a good grip on it with these 2 fingers, and then if I need to type, that's when that finger comes out. That's the ideal phone for me. You know, would I love the mini? I'll love the mini when it actually converses with my Apple glasses, and I can basically just use that as a keyboard as I'm writing as I'm walking. How about that? Fair?
Sounds good. So the similar to the improvements in battery life of the 13 compared to the 12. So the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max respectively get 1.5 hours and 2.5 hours more battery time than their predecessors. So again, I think we can chalk a lot of that up to the A15 Bionic as compared to the A14 there. So Apple's investment in Apple Silicon just continues to pay dividends, especially if you're going to be doing things like shooting video. And speaking of shooting video, they introduced a 1 terabyte storage option for the Pro and the Pro Max, which
bonkers.
So I'm rocking 256 right now, and I have 127 available. So I'm just over the 128 barrier, but I've got 127 gigabytes available. So I guess I'm stuck with the 256.
Yeah,
go for 1 terabyte.
I've got it on the iPad.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the amount of storage. Well, of course, you know, that's how they get you is when you upgrade on the storage. That's Apple does not give that.
Do you really feel got? Away. Do you really feel got? I mean, I told you I sold my old iMac, right? I sold my 2012 iMac to a good friend of mine, photographer, 27-inch. It's had the 2 gigabyte video card, 32 gigabytes of RAM. He's rocking it right now, turning out amazing photography work. And my cost of ownership for that device over 9 years was 91 cents a day. I don't feel got. I looked at the trade-in on the 11 Pro. They're going to be $570 for it. I don't feel got.
So speaking of pricing, and maybe Gray, you can tell us on the Canadian side, but US pricing for the iPhone 13 starts at $699, and for the 13 Pro starts at $999, and you can go down from there for the mini and up from there for the Pro Max. And if you want to add additional storage, you go up, 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 up.
Yep.
So mortgage your kids.
Starts with $1399 for the iPhone 13 Pro and $1549 Canadian for the iPhone 13 Pro Max, or $233 a month, or $258 a month for 6 months. Equal payments, no interest on PayBright. I'm not getting paid to say that. Just really impressed by it.
I'm trying to get as much life out of my phone as possible. I like what you're saying about the $1 a day. If I can stretch things out to the $1 a day for everything in my life, including food, then we're good to go.
Well,
Ramen all the way.
You should come with me for lunch at Costco every day. It's great. My nitrate level is through the roof. Ooh.
And your aspartame level.
Right. It's okay. The Diet Coke machine's never working. It's fine.
They have Pepsi products there.
Yeah, well,
don't even get me started.
Pepsi's motto, is Pepsi okay? No, it's not. I would have asked for it if it had been.
Exactly. But if you add enough lemonade to it, it helps. Yeah. Okay, so just to wrap up on the Apple stories, some folks may have noticed that there was a a special Twitter like animation for the Apple event. So in addition to the special Twitter Apple emoji that would appear for the last several Apple events, so if you hashtag Apple event, you get a little Twitter emoji would appear. There's a like animation now too, where the heart, if you clicked on it, would turn into an Apple logo. So I'm just gonna show you all here what this looked like, because I didn't happen to catch it because I don't like things. Let's have a look here. At the bottom of the screen. Whoop. Try that again. Click.
So quick.
See, there it goes. Turns into
So adorable.
Yeah.
So no one knows how much companies like Apple have to pay for the custom emoji or the custom like button animations, but I'm sure it's money well spent. Speaking of which, I think it was a little bit of a giveaway, to my mind, that there was going to be a lot of incremental updates as opposed to mind-blowing ones, given the amount of advertising I saw. I saw more YouTube ads for this Apple event than any previous ones, which was kind of interesting. So we'll see, because they had a lot of different products to talk about, and they really wanted people to show. So hopefully there was something for everyone there, even though no one product was terribly mind-blowing.
I have put in a call actually to Twitter to see about getting a custom Momentous like animation. I've also inquired to see if we can get the in there when people click like. That would be. They said they'd get back to me.
And then to make Tasia happy, who has a video in waiting, well, make her unhappy, that is, iOS 15, for those waiting for it to drop, will be available to download on September 20th. Same for iPadOS 15 and watchOS 8. So we've seen a number of betas throughout the summer, developer betas and public betas as well. I am not on the beta train anymore, but a lot of people do videos tend to do that. And so we're convincing Tasia to upgrade her phone so that she can put betas on her old phone, so she can get videos out ASAP.
I've been running on the iPad for a while, because again, it's not my mission critical machine. Monterey, I would not put on this thing until 0.1. I took that from you, but I feel like I'm going to split the difference here. We're Gold Master right now for iPhone, iOS 15. And I think Tasia, she was saying that she needs a hand. Oh no, she's got someone. She wanted a hand with a FaceTime thing. I think I might actually install the Gold Master here. Wish me luck.
Just back up first.
Right?
Well, that's the nice thing about iCloud backups, just all the time. Okay, real quick, PlayStation Showcase. There was a Microsoft one a few weeks ago with Xbox stuff. PlayStation had a showcase, and there was a few games announced, a lot of which seem to be existing IP or remakes and remasters. Will, can you take us through? Well, actually, I'll just mention some of them real quick. We had Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, Project Eve, Forspoken, Alan Wake remastered, Grand Theft Auto 5, Ghostwire Tokyo, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection for PC and PS5. So that's basically Uncharted coming to PC now. Marvel Wolverine, Gran Turismo 7, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok. Well, Will, what jumped out to you as being interesting? Because you are a PlayStation guy. You're not PS5 yet. We'll get to Gray in a sec. Yeah. But what got you excited about these announcements? Yes,
gaming guy. I mean, all the remasters are pretty much classics. Knights of the Old Republic. Glad to see that having a remake. Big fan of Uncharted. I think that at least the headlines for me, obviously, God of War is always going to be big when they do a drop on that. But the big thing here is finally confirmation on Spider-Man 2, and people didn't really know about this Wolverine, also from Insomniac, that did the very successful Spider-Man, and now that they have a Spider-Man 2 and now a Wolverine. It is the teasiest of teaser trailers. There's not much. This is not gameplay. It's the back of Wolverine and his clawed fist at one point. It is cool. It's nice to know. There's not much here to glean. But yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the Spider-Man, and looking forward to God of War.
How about you, Gray?
Lots of really great games here that I'm not going to play because I'm playing Destiny 2.
There's the song.
Never gets old.
Yeah, no, God of War I will absolutely give a go for. The version from last year, phenomenal, great. Loved it. Alan Wake was a real shocker. Like, this was an Xbox 360 title and you're remaking it. I didn't play it on Xbox 360. I think I own it on PC, but just never got around to it. So yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. And yeah, there's like Spider-Man, I did play a lot of last year. Didn't beat it, so I need to actually like get my butt into a place where I'm actually finishing that one. I also didn't play the Miles Morales version, so I feel like I owe myself that. You know what I might do, because we've got No Way Home coming out. I think I told you guys I haven't watched Far From Home yet, so I think what I will do is probably like Into the Spider-Verse first. You know, Tom Holland 1, Tom Holland 2, maybe the other 5 Spider-Man movies. Beat these 2 games and then go and see Far From Home.
You can skip Garfield.
You know, I like the Andrew Garfield ones.
I hated the second one, but
well, because the problem was Electro.
Right, Andrew Garfield. I'm thinking Garfield the cat. What?
Electro had no motivation to actually go crazy. He was like, it just didn't work.
Well,
like,
at least they're bringing him back.
I just hate some of the crazy backstory with the father and stuff. But I digress, and I think also I was so in love with the Tobey Maguire version. But you're right; it would be good to at least get a refresher on the whole Garfield duo of movies with the new one coming out. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. And so those are kind of my picks. That said, Destiny 2 Season of Lost is just going crazy right now. So I'm really deep into that.
As to be expected. Thank you.
As it was foretold. The prophecy.
In the prophecy. Okay. Other Marvel-related news, going from some Marvel games to first Marvel Hawkeye trailer. Promises Die Hard with Christmas joy. I don't know about you guys, but when my wife and I watched this, we were giddy.
Needs more purple.
It's pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of the comic book that this seems to be partly or largely based off of. I know there are a ton of cool special effects and stunts in this trailer. The most exciting thing for me was the 0.5 second glimpse of Lucky the Pizza Dog. I am so happy he's in the MCU. Pet Avengers, let's go. We've got Throg. We've got all the ingredients.
The Loki Gator.
Loki Gator. Lockjaw, even though we like to forget about the TV Inhumans. Let's just make it happen. Pet Avengers, people.
Jeremy Renner's really killing it with the Bruce Willis steely blue eyes in a couple of these shots. He's really, really killing it. So, yeah, I'm in.
And the interesting thing, too, is when we watched it, we thought, oh, okay, so it's a movie coming out at Christmas time. No, it's actually the new Disney Plus TV series that's going to follow What If.
Impressive.
I had forgotten about that. So again, here's another example of Marvel exploring some of the secondary characters. One could argue that maybe didn't get their as much screen time as they there he was as they should have in the movie. So it's kind of a nice opportunity to explore. And again, kind of like with the Black Widow movie, we see a bit of a handing off to perhaps a next generation Hawkeye here.
This is also Young Avengers, right? So that's another thing that's being rumored as well.
They're setting the table for the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Kevin Feige continues to knock it out of the park, as far as I'm concerned.
Feige's gonna Feige.
Feige's gonna Feige. And last up, Tasia Custody, our missing quarter. I thought she was going to be back this week. I think maybe she's been replaced by this maybe by an automaton, or I'm not exactly sure what, but she refuses to come in and join us again. But she claims that, it's all work and she's going away and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see, maybe next week, maybe the week after. But in the meantime, she does have a new video for us, generated by AI, I assume. Google Maps update.
Deep fake technology.
Exactly. New Google Maps iOS features. So we all know that Tasia's a big fan of the Google ecosystem, even though she tends to use Apple devices, at least for the time being. Fellas, what do you use? Apple Maps or Google Maps on your Apple devices?
Will?
I tend to use Google, partly because Apple led me wrong once when I was directing my wife, and I will never hear the end of it. So Google Maps for me.
I tend to do a bit of a comparison between the two. I'll actually pull both of the apps out and then look at how badly Google is trying to drive me into the river. I've actually had a number of instances recently where I'm like, what the? Is it tied to my account? Like, did they know that I don't like them and that's why they're doing this? It has been a long time since Apple has been what it was. How long ago was that? 8 years?
10 years.
10 years? 10 years?
10
Yeah.
years. Yeah, the jokes don't work anymore.
Yeah. So in a decade's time, everything from the 3D view of being, or like Street View now on Apple Maps. I can't remember what they call it, Quick Look or something like that. But there's feature parity. And it is more seamless. When I get a Google Maps link, occasionally I'll follow it for a little while before I realize that the voice is terrible. So here's one of the things. Like Apple will tell you, not at this light, but at the next one, turn left. It will use language like that. Whereas Google's like, on Sprott Street, turn left. And you're like, where is that?
And to be fair, that's a pretty recent change to the Apple Maps.
Now I'm not
system,
using,
which is great. Yeah,
I'm not using them for time travel, so I tend to be with the most recent version.
But that's something we noticed just a few months ago in changing the.
Yes.
And so I haven't used Google Maps recently to see how they're telling us where to go. Now the thing is, like people,
I do, and it's not any better. Well, maybe this is the update. It's been a week since I've used it, so this could be it.
Gotcha. People have been using Apple Maps as a whipping post for years and years and years. A lot of people forget why it was so bad to start. It's because they basically whipped it together in just a few months after Google refused to license Apple the vector illustrations instead of bitmap illustrations and turn-by-turn directions without Apple forking over customer data. Like that was the deal there. And Apple said, no, we're not giving you customer data. So I guess we're not taking this other stuff. We'll roll our own. So they quickly had to go and license stuff from TomTom and other sources, put it together. It was a bit of a fustercluck. And of course, what's his face wouldn't apologize for it after Tim Cook asked him to, who was the head of software, what was the guy's name? He was a longtime Apple guy. His name is escaping. Scott Forstall. Scott Forstall, yeah. Tim Cook asked him to apologize. Scott Forstall wouldn't. And so he was out of there. So heads rolled.
He did not forestall his exit.
Exactly. And there's been some interesting interviews with Forstall since then on, because, he was a longtime Apple fellow and saw a lot and was instrumental in the creation of the iPhone, especially on the software side. So, and Apple has done what a lot of, companies that are serious about what they do, including Google and Samsung, they just continue to iterate, and it just got better and better, and then eventually catch up. And then some people think they're actually better. Now, I've had Google Maps take me to the wrong side of Surrey before. Like no mapping application is perfect. Now they're all in an arms race. Apple is caught up. Now they're doing their own stuff with their aerial and satellite photography. Not to mention their like you said, the city views and the street views. They've all got cars driving around now. So it's really 6 of one, half a dozen the other in a lot of cases. But like you said, Gray, and I do the same thing when it's kind of a mission critical situation. Usually I stick with Apple Maps, but if I've got to be somewhere in a rush and it might be getting close to rush hour, I will check Apple Maps, Google Maps, and even Waze as well, because Waze has some of that social reporting features that I think they're making their way into Google Maps eventually. We'll see how long Waze sticks around. It's kind of like more happy-go-lucky app, and we'll see if Google lets that continue, or they're just going to totally absorb it eventually.
It's a tool. It's not a religion. That said, I still have my favorite hammer.
But will it let you pick it up?
Right? No, not worthy. Not so beta software.
So that's it. We made it. If you are interested in learning more about Momentous, follow us you can check out our website, momentus.tv, which I sorely need to update, but you can find us at twitter.com/momentustv, facebook.com/momentustv, which are updated reasonably regularly. Instagram.com/momentus.tv, updated somewhat less regularly, actually a lot less regularly. We got to figure out what to do with that one. And and of course we have videos on YouTube, so you can just search my name on YouTube and then find Momentous live playlist and other Momentous playlists there too, until we finally get our vanity URL. Will, Gray, thank you. Favorite day of the week. Hope you all have a truly momentous week.